This is the holiday special of Blue Space, the first podcast introduction. I'm having my turban on because I just been to the shower, and this is though called Breakfast at Iselin's. In case you are like me, having it alone, this is outside, totally outside the hamster wheel. So in 2024, I've just created now. All right, my life work is like a job that never stops, a job that recreates itself more or less forever. And I'm gonna invite you to join me, join yourself, join the participatory courses, leaderships, and interviews that's gonna result into 2 interactive products. And yeah, I've done this before. This is called multimedia. Multimedia has existed since the first computer, except we're using it a little bit wrong. I'm gonna explain that later. The market-driven need is rising. I'm gonna tell you exactly why. This has a great potential right now for humanity, not just to create a job for yourself and your profit. I'm gonna be 100% transparent with this project. This is an art project, but we're gonna make money because this money is going back to the humanity. It's something else than business as usual. And this is also gonna be one of the chapters to explain what is corporate social responsibility. And that is done by a leadership role. That's a part of the course Feminine Leadership Philosophy. Feminine Leadership Philosophy is one of the podcast series, thematic series, gonna invite a lot of exciting personalities, speakers, people I know who are in the business already, a lot of women coaches who are doing successful communities. Why is this an important publication? It's an important publication because the result of all the conversations, lasting points that we elect, it will be a guide for future leaders, the young people, and we're also going to offer courses for young feminine leadership entrepreneurs, people who wants to learn about it and people who wants to grow their own business into the more feminine direction. Why do I say feminine and what is feminine? That's also going to be one of the thematic episodes. It's only women doing this. Now it's the most needed aspect of business today and society in general. It's a more humble, collective society of understanding, of creation, all those aspects that in the original feminine qualities is gonna be present in the book, in the interviews, and the result of the conversations. The transcripts will be available for everyone to read, and the transcripts are gonna come into multimedia such as video making, and we're also gonna do some sound healing, which will be present around like a radio show, TV show. We're gonna do this full multimedia. I say we because I don't do these content creations alone. Content creation is, well, I do, but it's like, it's collaborative, it's collabs. If you do any multimedia today, nothing is unique, everything is borrowed, but you have to be conscious about this. You have to have your integrity, ownerships, and still to create this together, because otherwise, you know, it's this concept about social media, for instance. If everyone wanted to become the richest man, billionaire, or every woman wanted to be a supermodel, it's not enough space, even in multimedia, for all of that. It's not sustainable for the earth if everybody wants to become the same famous. Everybody's doing tutorials of makeup and I just want to be rich, and then what's the point? It's not developing for society. And this is a different concept where the product and the process is a part of the development that's gonna run by itself. It's not something thrown on the people's heads. It's something produced that they can reproduce. And then there's gonna be these lasting interactive ebooks at the end. One fiction, one educational story. I'm bringing this because it's still Christmas, but this is also symbolic, if you know. The original feminine goddess had these two horns, and I'm gonna tell more about it. We're gonna go deep dive into what that means. It might not be the feminine that you think of, the Disney princess. That's not the original feminine. Play with that idea because I'm writing a novel about two guys, actually, two refugees that's trying to find their lost mother. And this is a story where I'll invite a huge Gen Z community to keep writing together with me. And that's the second part. That's another thematic, the fiction thematic episodes where the book's gonna write itself. Because I'm gonna use the script method there too. It's not a contest. It's more like the writers are already there because the big community is on Wattpad, all right? So these people, they keep writing stories forever. They hope and dream to become inside the Warner Brothers studios where they produce Netflix, or Netflix studios where they produce these films. Amazing. I mean, because these people want to influence and be storytellers. Great, the market is there. One of the first things I learned in marketing school, multimedia school, marketing is different than normal marketing schools, all right? It is, you can't create a market. You can't. It's either there, latent, or it is a market driven by needs in society that you discover. You find the market, you boost that market, and you make that market to regenerate itself. That's gonna grow. So you can't just say, for instance, the whole debate about artificial intelligence, right? That's something a little, it might hit not, because it's something they try. It's something that is inevitable now because it's so integrated into all technologies. Great, but it's not so conscious yet. So it's more like, let's see if the market hits this, and still very, nah, we want this authentic. We want authenticity today. That's one of the already market-driven needs, or we can take and say, all right, authenticity is in, not out. What do we do with that according to implement social, entrepreneurial projects that can give back to society at the same time, create something that you feel is given? Because, you know, like I'm a creator, I'm a composer, I do things out of the hamster wheel, let's say. If that gives you something, it means that there's a reason. And that's what I think people lack today, is purpose, is meaningful work, meaningful life. It's no meaning in, you know, your house getting bombed because somebody wanted to become rich. Or it's no meaning that you just do what your parents said because they get proud. And then if they pass and you're there, and and then you might do things for your friends, for your future spouses. You're in the press because you think that's gonna make you grow. I've never had those images, but I understand this is how the hamster wheel work on the subconscious level. It's like, it's not really about business, but it's about self, or lack of self-identity, or a lack of exploration about self-identity. So, as the first episode comes, called self-determination, what means to be in a nation, is a philosophy event. It's like, okay, there might be some truth in all, but the real truth, which we're gonna find here, because we don't talk, we don't lie in this podcast. We're telling from the gut, all right? There's a need to identify with the things you're doing. That's why the debate is there, because you can't identify with a world at distance from nature the way it does. So because we don't have any intimate contact with the natural world the way we build around it. So why we can't relate to what's right here, right now, like the Zen Buddhism usually talked about the whole time, is that we're not present because we're not related to that present. We just create it as an artificial image of what we think is gonna be our reality. Because I believe in this society, we have symptoms of problems that we're showing. We never really show the core problems. So I think the core problem is also to deep dive into the feminine, actually, and to the masculine as well. We're going to talk about masculinity, femininity as is not really that binary as it presents itself. So it's qualities within all human beings. This podcast is gonna be queer friendly in this tone that I don't tolerate any racism, any homophobia, anything such in these series. Everything like that's gonna be blocked, because, and that's, again, you're gonna say that's woke, right? No, this is about recognizing that there are things in society you can't pattern. There are things you can't pattern because you can't make an image of another's identity, as you don't know exactly where it's coming from, because your identity is already the setup that is not in touch with the real core, like I said, with only the symptom. So that's just to say. And then the storytelling. Storytelling is gonna have images, audio, music, video making. That's gonna result in the fiction interactive audiobook with elected Wattpad writers for some chapters, not the whole book, because I've already written the book, all right? But I'm gonna make you rewrite some chapters. You're gonna be participatory authors of this novel, and that means so a lot of production. Why? And I've also done some research, because since I'm not the first one doing all this, I'm going to implement all the media you can think of into this, almost. Just that. Let's say on YouTube. This will be on YouTube as well. For instance, in Christmas time, the videos with the most hits, the most views that are there today, it's not what you think. It's not the most fancy videos. It's like still images of, like, say, a fireplace with a big Christmas tree in front and lots of wavy fires. That is artificial, of course. It's made like a simulation of a fireplace with animated, maybe animation that someone has designed or copied, or, you know, like today you just tell AI or whatever, and they create this fireplace. All right, it has hundreds of thousands of views because of the calm sound placed to still images of calm surroundings. For instance, I follow a channel called Cozy Rain. Cozy Rain is to make people sleep better, because we live in a very hasty hamster wheel society. So to sleep better, people watch rain before they go to sleep, instead of walking out and, you know, it doesn't rain all the time, but, you know, you get rain artificial in your ear because it has sound healing effects, all those frequencies, which I know a lot about. But those videos get so many views because they make you feel you are there, because it's so realistic. Those images of a bed, for instance, and the fireplace, and a little cat that sleeps next to it, and you have always a cup of coffee there with some smoke on. They make animated, coffee smoke, what you call it. And I can understand this is an audience-driven market, which has hundreds of thousands YouTube viewers. All those videos are no less than 3 minutes long, created maybe in 5 minutes time, because you only have a still image and you have some artificial animation you can find anywhere in any app, and you just have the calm music where they make royalty free, they can find in a library, lots of non-exclusive music out there. I produce my own music, so I'm gonna make that all. So yeah, this is gonna be a business, right? But for you to listen to the calm sound, I invite you to make the graphics. I invite you to make the storylines. And we're gonna also have some voiceovers for people who like to record their own poems and voices. Put it on the music track. The thematic episode is gonna call sound healing, because I do my own personal research about frequencies. I definitely know it has different impacts on the body level. To talk about noise, why it makes us stressed and why we need the calmness. And we have the social network, which I yet haven't talked about, which will be maybe in the next episode, because this is a lot of talking. For any community online today, you need a social network. I'm not going to use Facebook as much as I hoped on this, because even though people are there, I believe they are now so used to social networks, they can use apps and they can also join communities. So as long as you feel included. So here it is, and the storytelling you see here. Okay, the 2 arrows at the end, it's gonna point to the 2 products that's gonna be produced. And because I did this drawing is because when I went to business school in Denmark, the oldest business school in Europe with multimedia and entrepreneurship, we learned to draw our own business models. And one of these are one of the newer, called the matrix model, where you have the specializations collaborate on the project to a common outcome, and also all of the specialities will result in involvement and a new outcome. When the 2 books are out, The Guide to Future Feminine Leaders and to be announced visual novel, audiovisual novel, those books will be so much of content, and they can also be rewritten again and debated again. And there is no other medium surviving on this planet longer than the book. There is no other. Depends on the quality of the book, but that's what people wrote in stones. That's because they knew that we would destroy everything that we create unless we write it down in something lasting. This is the deep dive into the goddess history, because that's also unexplored. We have those nerds who, like me, we buy mythology books, and I know all about goddess histories. Not all, but here where I am, I have a lot of people who can tell me more about that. Because into the fictional book to be announced, besides the fiction of the 2 refugees, dive into the history of the goddess. And those stories you will participate through and write. And those stories will be elected the best parts into the publication, the final publication. I just told you that the book is the most lasting medium, because it is. if it creates impact on population. That said, it does by itself when so many people have something to say and think about the book. It's going to create a guide for people to live by. We don't live by the Bible anyway in this society, right? We live by our thought and images of it, but not to have the religious debate, but imagine that it can survive for so many thousands of years, and you think it's the book itself, right? I tell you not. It's the institutions and the communities that makes the book alive. And what I'm gonna do with the digital world is that it's already alive. People are there. It's the community already on the internet. To finally kick myself into that. Because when everybody wants to become famous, and everybody wants to be online and be filmed, then I sit at the back, because that's my personality. I do opposite of this masses. I never go with the stream. I never follow people. I just, I sit on the back and I wait till my turn. My mom always told me, you never do anything until you're ready. Never. She's right, but I want to add one thing. I never do things until society is ready for what I got. What is happening in the world right now is more and more readiness for this. More and more readiness for the platform I'm going to create, which will be recreating itself by all the creators participating to it. I've done it before. I was an editor of a magazine that I didn't write. I wrote a few articles, yes. I wrote as an editorial piece, and together with my co-editor. She was also a brilliant writer. And the people that produced the magazine was normal writers and people who wanted to express who they are, who wanted to shine, who wanted to also have job opportunities afterwards, which they got thanks to the magazine. And people who wanted to learn about feminine leaders, because that was what this magazine was about. I'm bringing this to podcast. It was a printed magazine. I'm also gonna do some print on demand, since everything and everybody are producing content constantly on the internet right now and social medias. I'm making it one step further, which means interactive podcast, interactive storytelling is something else than just publication, just getting profit, just getting seen, just to be seen, just to get money. This is beyond that step. So we're already in the future, because this kind of projects are the future, where you collaborate with other creators to produce something again that humanity benefits, as well as yourself. Yes, we're gonna make money. The first episode that's coming after New Year's, I don't have the time schedule right now. You will get it a long time before it comes, all right? It's gonna be about self-determination. This is the earth. It's round, not flat. Because the earth can't determine itself. We don't have to. And here is the first art piece that I'm gonna introduce, which is called Dream of a Country. How nature interferes with our thoughts, right? When we think we have the borders and limits already in our heads, and then nature comes and says, no, I can determine. If you want the future, you need to listen to nature, because there won't be any borders left if we don't determine nature's borders and limits and respect it. Like the indigenous said, I'm the indigenous, so I know what this is about. Sustainability is about your local borders. This matters for self-determination and democracy and their right to self-determination, which means when people say, yeah, but you have to give up some of your country to get peace. And I know their anger, because I know what, as an indigenous person, I know why you can't say that to a people's living at their sacred space. Because if you are related to a river and you're dependent on that for generations to survive as your population, for instance, it's not that this river is in a particular country, it's that this river is part of your vertical route. And that means, again, you determine your surroundings as you live. So it's about not to have a concept of other people's borders, but to know how they relate to their inner and their outer border. And this means we're gonna talk about what makes a nation, what makes a nation possible, and what makes democracy the most sustainable, and how we develop democracy at the same time. It's not perfect. You can see that in the United States, they don't have everything settled, how democracy is gonna be. But it's possible as long as you're aware, like, you know, the First Nations was not the first. You had the natives that lived there before them, you know? Let's say Norway, my country. They have their Sami parliament, all right? That's the constitution. That's also living within and respecting the upper constitution, respecting them, self-autonomous governmental institution, all right? Think about that for a moment. There was a need to put that into laws to preserve an area where they already were before us, to have democratic rights for that self-determination, and to choose what you want your country to be from the bottom up, not from top down, where you have the authoritarianism that creates it for you. That's also a part of how nations become, and how Norway became what Norway is today, is social democracy. It didn't start that way, all right, with the kings and the one that wipes out the Vikings, and the indigenous populations had to move from their places and all those things. It was a decades-long fight to get the democracy we have today, and a lot of countries can't relate to that concept of democracy that we can. That means we have to give them examples of how that can be done. The fact that, for instance, Ukraine has now chosen what they want to be. They want to be themselves. Like, hey, don't be a Hitler here. We know what we are. Doesn't need to mean like, look at my history books and data. I know my history. You don't even have to say it, because it's the attitude. I have chosen, I have elected my country. They already said it. That's a win for the whole democracy in the world, not just them. And you have to realize this fight that we're seeing today, the societies is about for us to learn what not to do and what to do. The bigger pictures, where everything floats in peaceful coexistence. If you're, by the way, pro-Russia or pro-MAGA or anything like that, it's not to say freedom of speech is out, but freedom of imperialism, I don't tolerate it. So I'm gonna be strict with to say that if I get any threats from anything like that, I have the law, because I'm from Norway, where it's illegal to threaten or for the safety of the public. If that threatens democracy, it's against Norwegian law.
will stay long.